you took an excessive amount of edibles the other night. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Why am I doing weed so much?
It's fun right now.
Am I a drug addict?
Nah.
Tell me now, guys.
Here's what it is. We've been going through, we talked about this, Mike, the creation consumption thing.
Oh, yeah, this conversation.
I think we're, like, you're pumping out a lot. You're doing a lot of creation. You got to find some way to, like, turn your brain off to, like, receive something. So you're not, like, constantly trying to, you know, hit the gas.
So check us out. You're right. This is a great conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Creation versus consumption.
Yeah.
How much to create, how much to consume. Should there be a balance? If so, why? Is it necessary? I did a writing session with a director by the name of Luc Besson, who you guys may know. I'm actually gonna look up his IMDb here. So this dude is an absolute legend. He's one of the greatest directors of all time. Lucy 2, Anna, Taken, Taxi 5, Valerian,
the scores on
Taken
all of them?
3, Transporter, the first Lucy. No, directed and wrote.
Okay, yeah. And what you guys do?
Just a like the epitome of a creator, and an artist here in Hollywood. And so we had a writing session, and I asked him, I was like, yo, where did your creativity come from? We had a couple 2 to 3 writing sessions, and somehow I got linked with him. And I asked him, I was like, yo, where did your creativity come from? He's a French guy. He said he grew up in the countryside, and he was always bored. And so he would create these worlds in his head of these aliens. And if you've seen like The Fifth Element, he directed, if you've seen that, like these just insane fantasy worlds, because he had nothing else to do. And he had, I would assume, some sort of genetic blessing where he was a bit more creative and imaginative than the average person. But I would argue he probably wasn't consuming that much.
What did he have television and stuff like that? Like,
he lived on a farm in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, because remember when we were talking about this the other night, I brought up it's funny because everything that I create now, everything that I am now as a person is based on what I consumed throughout the course of my life. And so for the first, 30 years of my life, all I did was consume music, consume movies, The Sopranos, every TV show, every conversation I had was, every Jeopardy show I watched was me being a sponge and sucking that in. And it is now prevalent and apparent in everything that I create. And now I've gone down the other side of the spectrum. And that's where I think you are too, where you're just putting out. And the reason we had this conversation is because the theater in the house is broken right now. We can't consume. We have no way to consume. And what we do consume is TikToks and mindless content. And I got very worried the other day about what that may do to our ability to create stunning,
bigger, larger, more
workmanship.
Evolved,
exactly. And so I guess my biggest takeaway was to encourage people out there to at least pay attention to what you're consuming.
Absolutely.
And make sure you're consuming shit that could in turn give you the ability to create good shit. Because I mean, honestly, like Long Face and that "Mom, where are we going" on TikTok, like I don't know what you're gonna end up producing as a result of that.
I mean, it depends. Like, I think the people who are like watching TikTok in this like quote unquote mindless content, I don't like they're young, right? So I don't know if they need to be constantly inundated with ideas with value or inspiration that has. But why? Because when I was young, I would watch YouTube and Smosh and
when you were really young,
E-Bomb's World, bro. When I was 8, like between 8 and 15, like really young. When I was in my consumption phase, like what is life? What do I want to do? How is the world? And because of that, because of what I saw, I became a content creator because I thought it was cool. I saw the Smosh guys, Anthony and Ian, becoming like these big YouTube people, and I wanted to do that. And so I don't know I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know if we're talking about kids our age, which is probably the majority of people listening to this podcast, just fucking watch how much TikTok you consume. There's probably better things to be investing your time in. But if you're young, like it's like you just explore.
I guess I'm talking more like from our perspective at this point, because dude, you literally are go all day. You are not consuming any content
Until he takes
other than the
edibles.
quick stuff that you have to, like, if you're looking for content, you're going online, quick stuff.
Yeah, agree. And actually, in this conversation right now, I think that's why I've been smoking as much weed as I have.
Yeah.
And I stopped yesterday because I was like, whoa, this is too much. But I think it's because, and actually, if you go back 2 podcasts ago, you hear me say, like, it's hard for me to shut my mind off. Like, I've been laying in bed for 2 hours at night, every night like this. Just like trying to go to sleep, just inundated with just like thoughts and creativity. And the weed makes me useless, dude.
Yep.
Dumb, stupid, just like able to, forces myself to just relax and take a very necessary breath. The problem is, no one told me this. Bro, like, weed gives you a hangover.
Absolutely.
It can.
Dude,
It's like
Dude.
dehydrating as hell. You just wake up and you feel like you're
Groggy.
made of slugs.
So what's good? I thought this was going to be better alternative
how
than
much
drinking.
you consume? How much you consume? Like if you take a lot, you're gonna have a bad time.
It's
in the
another
morning.
consumption.
breaks.
It's another consumption conversation. I'd love to dive deeper, maybe not in this episode, but into this this like psychedelia world that we play in sometimes, whether it be with weed or also just like. I know I'm kind of like anti-drugs at this point and kind of have to maintain that platform, but I'm not really anti-fungus and anti-marijuana. I think that there's a use case for both those drugs.
Yeah.
When done properly and under supervision, or when whatever you have to do to get it done the right way.
Ask your parents to watch you smoke the weed.
Well, or it's kind of gotten to that point. I mean, it's gotten to a point where mushrooms are now starting to be prescribed to people for PTSD, for end of life, for that kind of stuff, and marijuana has a bunch of medical use cases as well. And I'm a believer in psychoactive's ability to kind of remove you from the stressors or anxieties or depressions of everyday life, and more so to expand your mind to be able to sponge up those things that you may not be interested or you may not be able to achieve on a normal brain. And
Just
this
opens
is
your
not-
mind more.
Yeah, this is not me encouraging. We've talked about this a little bit before. This is not me encouraging anyone to go do these things, but there's no denying. And Rogan talks about this a lot, obviously, as well.
the
The benefits or the psychedelics' ability to expand your mind.
I just am hesitant. So on the opposite note, I'm hesitant with psychedelic drugs or even weed. The little bit that I've just sort of started like playing with, and I'm okay being vocal with it about it. If something is that good, there's something that is like equally as bad. Like for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Like
You got to be careful with it. You can't consume too much, and it's definitely not for everybody.
no facts.
1000%. Like if you don't feel like you should do it, you don't have to.
It is so easy to get lost in the sauce with some of these drugs, and like until I mean, if you happen to be the person who's wired in an addictive way, and you happen to fall in love with doing psychedelics, next thing you know, you're changing your last name and praying to rainbows.
Yeah,
whenever
or
they
you
come.
become Sid Barrett, just like the guy
greatest
who started for Pink Floyd, just inability to.
What did you say he did though? He was the writer for Pink Floyd.
Yeah, he was the original. Fuck, I don't want to get quoted on wrong here. I believe he was the original writer, and maybe he was even the original frontman for Pink Floyd. But he used to wake up and put just tabs upon tabs of LSD in his cereal every morning, and he eventually.
Do you know what kind of? I'm not so concerned about the LSD, but what kind of cereal he was?
Dude, Lucky Charms.
I know.
Lucky Charms.
I mean,
Yeah.
this was back in the early '60s, because when he was writing, it was Pink Floyd. I believe the song was called "Bike." He wrote "Bike." This is like '63, and so I don't even think Lucky Charms was out yet. It was probably Cheerios. Was Cheerios out yet?
That's a good question.
But just dropping blotter, just tabs, bro, tabs and tabs.
that is
Every day
insane.
you'd wake up and just go fucking
Doesn't it get
nuts.
exhausting?
I mean,
Yeah,
these guys.
it has
I mean,
to.
these guys were just like the guy who owned your ranch. These guys, Timothy Leary. These guys were cosmonauts, dude. They were psychedelic cosmonauts.
Yeah.
They were exploring the boundaries of. Listen.
Push it
I
to
don't know.
limit.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if they were. If you're using it to write a song and a hit song repeatedly, like sure, but like bro, Tim Leary. I don't know how noble that endeavor was.
It's not. I'm not talking about no.
You know what I'm saying? Like how much acid can you do before you're like, all right, I get it.
You do acid.
You do
bro.
acid.
We get it.
Talking about-
That's it.
It leads you into a world that definitely doesn't exist, and you're still living on a farm.
If you can, you remember the movie What was the one with Bradley Cooper?
Interstellar.
No.
Limitless.
Limitless. Yeah, Limitless. When he's like at the very end, he's talking to Robert De Niro, and he's like, "Oh, you're about to have a heart attack." Blah, blah, blah. How did you know that? I'm off the drug. But I remembered all the things that like I learned on the drug. Like you could take stuff from that space as long as you're like conscious enough to remember it and put it down.
I'm not talking about nobility. I'm talking about they treated LSD in the late 60s, 1967 through 1969, Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco. They treated acid the same way we treated space travel. Or, going to the moon. How far can we push the boundaries of this drug? And it wasn't about how much can we take. It was about, let's try this concoction. Let's try this serum. Let's try this. Let's try this. So they were exploring, because let's be honest with each other right now. I mean, there's no other way. And I say this a lot too. There's no other way for a human to escape the confines of this reality. Some, Andre might say it can be done through intense meditation, which maybe it can. Some will say it can be done through tantra. But in my experience, there is no other way to escape. Up is up, down is down, right is right, left is left, black is white. I smell smells, I see sights. On psychedelics, you see sounds, you hear smells. Like the confines of normal reality have been distorted. And it is, and whether you want to say, you like them or you agree with their use, it's the only way to take this reality and go to another dimension.
Yeah, it's definitely effective. Like
it's effective.
Yeah, like it gets the job done pretty quickly. Like it's not years of meditation training. It's like
that's what I'm saying. For most people, it would take forever to learn how to meditate yourself into another dimension. I mean,